Hi, I'm sending this to you because your site is one of the few places that archives stories like this without turning it into a joke. I'm not looking for advice about grief or dreams. I'm writing down what happened in the order it happened because the records on my phone are what make it hard to deny and because it's still going on. My dad died in late winter a few years back. He was at home on hospice in my childhood house, and my sister and I took turns staying overnight. Toward the end, he wasn't talking much, but he would fixate on small tasks, like making sure his wallet was in the same drawer every night or that the porch light was off. One evening after my sister left, he asked me to get a box from the hall closet. He described it like he'd packed it himself, even though he could barely get out of bed. I pulled out a shallow cardboard box with tape around it. When I opened it, there was one thing inside, a baby dress, new with tags, folded in crisp tissue paper. It was pale yellow with tiny stitched flowers at the collar. The tag said it was for an infant, the size range that's between newborn and the next stage up. It didn't make sense. No one in our family was pregnant. I wasn't. My sister wasn't. I asked him if it was a mistake, and he shook his head hard enough that it scared me. He said very clearly, "That's for her." I asked, "For who?" He repeated it, same words, like he was confirming an order. "For her. Take it." I told him it was weird that I didn't know where to put it, and he got angry. Not the confused kind of angry, like I was refusing a responsibility. He said he had bought it new and it had to go with me. He asked me to promise. I remember this part because it was one of the last long sentences he managed. He said it needed to be in my house, not his. I took it. I did not have the energy to argue with a dying man. I put it in the trunk of my car and drove back to my apartment the next morning. I'm a list person. I lose track of stuff if I don't write it down, and I hate buying duplicates. I use a basic home inventory app. It's not fancy. You make locations like hall closet or kitchen cabinet, and you add items with a photo and notes. I started it after my neighbor had a small fire, and the insurance process was a mess. That afternoon, I added the dress to the app. I remember taking the photo on my kitchen counter because the light was good and the yellow looked true. I created a location I called Office Closet Top Shelf, because at the time my apartment didn't have a nursery or even a spare bedroom. I had a small home office, and the closet there had a top shelf I never used. I put the dress back in the tissue paper and set it on that shelf in the box. I felt stupid doing it, like I was humoring a strange request, but it made my dad happy. He died less than a week later. I didn't think about the dress for a long time. Life moved. I met my now husband. We moved into a rental house, and eventually we bought a smaller house a few towns over. The dress stayed in the back of my mind as that weird thing Dad gave me, but I never went looking for it. I didn't do a full purge when we moved because we used movers and most boxes went straight into storage. A year or so after the move, I was trying to get our homeowner's policy paperwork organized, and I decided to update my inventory app to match the new house. I didn't want a million locations that didn't exist anymore. I exported the list, printed it, and went room by room updating. I remember hitting the entry for the baby dress and feeling a pinch of discomfort. It was still listed as being in the office closet top shelf, which wasn't even a thing anymore. I searched the app for the photo. It was there. Same picture I'd taken in my old kitchen. The location field still said office closet top shelf. I laughed at myself and made a note that it was packed somewhere. Then I tried to find it. I checked the storage boxes in the garage, the plastic bins with holiday stuff, and the old suitcases. I could not find it. I didn't panic. It was a small, easy-to-misplace item. I assumed it was in some random box labeled MISC and kept going. When I got pregnant, I remembered the dress again. Not in a spooky way. More like, oh, Dad would have loved this. It was a normal, happy pregnancy. We found out the sex, but didn't tell anyone. I got the nursery ready in what used to be the guest room. We bought a white bookshelf, and I set up fabric bins for diapers and blankets. I kept using the inventory app because it helped me track baby items, especially gifts. Before the baby shower, I went back into the app and searched dress. The entry was still there, still with that photo, and now the location had changed. It said, nursery bookshelf, top right bin. I stared at it for a long time. I had not created that location yet in the app. At that point in the nursery, the bookshelf was assembled, but the bins weren't even bought. I checked my edit history. The app keeps timestamps, and it showed the location had been updated earlier that week. Not by a manual edit, it just showed as an automatic sync change, like when you rename a location and it cascades. But I had not renamed anything to nursery bookshelf. I thought maybe I had accidentally imported a template or something. I went into the location list. Sure enough, nursery bookshelf was there as a location, and under it, top right bin as a sublocation. It was empty except for the baby dress. I went into the nursery and looked at the bookshelf. There were no bins. There was nothing on the top shelf but a folded swaddle blanket I'd just washed. I checked the closet, the dresser, under the crib, no dress. That night I told my husband. He listened and said maybe I had moved it without remembering, or maybe the app was glitching. That sounded reasonable. I decided to stop thinking about it. Our baby was born healthy in early fall. Those first months were a blur of feedings and laundry. I forgot about the dress again. When she was around the size that the tag had said, I started sorting the drawer of clothes she'd outgrown. I was also rotating in the next size up from gifts we'd received. I remember this day clearly because it was a weekend afternoon and the house was quiet, and I had one of those rare stretches where the baby was napping and I could actually put things away. I opened the nursery door, and the first thing I saw was the bookshelf. There were bins now. I had bought them in a pack, all the same color. The top right bin was slightly pulled forward, not all the way pushed in like the others. I assumed I'd done it earlier. I pulled it out. On top of the baby socks and burp cloths was a tissue-wrapped bundle folded neatly into a rectangle. It was the dress. It looked exactly like it had in my dad's closet. Crisp, new, tags still on. No yellowing, no smell, no sign it had been in a garage or storage. The tissue paper wasn't torn. The fold lines looked fresh. I did not get a rush of comfort. I got cold, like my body recognized a problem before my brain did. I checked the tag again, and it was the right size for where my daughter was right then. Not close. Right. I went straight to my phone and opened the inventory app. The entry for the dress was there, with the location nursery bookshelf, top right bin. The photo was the old kitchen photo, not a new one. The app showed it had been at that location since earlier in the pregnancy. My husband got home and I showed him the dress and the app. He handled the dress like it was normal and said, "Well, good, you found it." Then he saw my face and stopped. He looked at the inventory entry. He asked if I'd made the location as a joke. I hadn't. I showed him the location list and how it had only one item. He couldn't explain it either, but he also didn't want to talk about it. We put the dress in a keepsake box in our bedroom closet. I did not want it in the nursery anymore. I updated the app location manually to bedroom closet keepsake box. I took a new photo as proof, with that day's newspaper in the frame, like people do when they're selling something online. I felt ridiculous, but I did it anyway. 2 nights later, I got a notification from the inventory app. It was a normal notification style, the same one it sends when it detects a duplicate or reminds you to back up. The message said, "Location conflict resolved." When I opened it, the dress entry had reverted to nursery bookshelf top right bin. My new photo was gone. It was back to the old kitchen photo. The notes field I had typed about moving it to the keepsake box was gone too. I checked the keepsake box. The dress was not there. I went to the nursery and pulled out the top right bin. The dress was there, folded and tissue wrapped, sitting on top like it had never moved. That was the point where it stopped being a weird coincidence and became a procedure, like something following steps. I started testing it, carefully. I made a separate note on paper with dates and what I did, because I no longer trusted the app as a record. Every time I moved the dress somewhere else, it would be back in that bin within a day or two. The app would always show that it had been in the bin the whole time. If I tried to delete the entry, it would reappear the next morning, complete with the original photo and the nursery location already assigned. If I tried to rename the location to something else, the name would snap back. Nursery bookshelf, top right bin. Always the same. I turned off Cloud Sync. I deleted and reinstalled the app. I changed my password. I checked for shared accounts. Nothing helped. The entry behaved like it had priority over the rest of my inventory, like it was the source of truth and my edits were temporary. My husband asked me to stop messing with it because it was making me anxious. I tried. I left it alone for a while. We didn't put it on the baby. I couldn't. It felt like complying. Then on a night when our daughter was fussy and wouldn't settle, I found the dress not in the bin, but laid out flat inside the crib, centered like someone had positioned it. The nursery light was off, but the hall light spilled in enough that I could see the shape. I checked the app. Still the same location, top right bin. The app did not reflect that it was in the crib. The app only ever insists on that one location, even when my eyes say otherwise. I took the dress out of the crib and put it back in the bin, and then I moved the bin itself to the garage. I didn't update the app. I just physically removed the bin with everything in it. The next morning, the bin was back in the bookshelf. Not just the dress. The entire bin, with the socks and cloths and everything I'd stuffed into it. It was seated properly, flush like the others. My husband swore he didn't bring it back. He thought I did. We argued, then we both went quiet because neither explanation fit. After that, I set up a cheap battery camera in the nursery, pointed at the bookshelf. I did not connect it to the internet. It records to a local card. I didn't tell my husband at first because I didn't want to make it a bigger thing. The camera footage is where I hit a wall. It does not show the bin moving. It does not show the dress appearing. The timestamps are normal until the gap, and then there's a stretch of missing time like the camera stopped and started again. No corruption message, no low battery, just a clean gap, and then the bin is there, and the dress is there, and the nursery looks undisturbed. The gaps line up with the same pattern. Whenever the dress is not where it should be, there is a missing block of footage, and then it's back. If the dress is left alone in the bin, the footage is normal. I started keeping the nursery door shut. I put a strip of painter's tape across the door and frame at night so I could see if it opened. Some mornings the tape would be intact and the dress would still have shifted position slightly inside the bin, like someone had checked it and refolded it. The most recent change is what made me finally write this. My daughter is older now. The dress no longer fits her. I thought maybe it would stop. It didn't. Last week, I opened the app to look up something unrelated, and there was a new entry I did not create. No photo, just text. The item name was for her, all lowercase. The location was nursery bookshelf, top right bin. I went to the bin. The dress was still there, but underneath it was a second tissue-wrapped bundle, smaller. I did not open it. I closed the bin and pushed it back in. I checked the paper notes I've been keeping. My handwriting is there. The dates are there. The dress has been doing this on a schedule that matches my daughter's growth stages, like it's waiting for the next size to become relevant. It arrived when she hit that first size range. It escalated when she started sleeping in the crib. Now there's something new, labeled the same words my dad said. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. I have tried throwing the dress away. I put it in a sealed trash bag and drove it to a dumpster behind a grocery store on the other side of town. I did not update the app. The next morning it was in the bin again, folded like nothing happened, and the app showed it had never left. I'm not asking you to publish this as a ghost story. I want it documented, because the record keeping is part of what's happening. The dress isn't just showing up. The system insists it was always there, in that exact place, even when it wasn't. And now the system is adding new items. If you post this and someone recognizes the pattern or has dealt with something that behaves like a list that rewrites itself, I want to hear from them, because I have another baby on the way, and I'm afraid of what for her is going to mean when there are two of them.